Hello, comic geeks! This is Systematic Geekology. We are the Priest of the Geeks, and we are here with another episode of Comic Book Ketchup, where we catch up on all the latest comics we've been reading. I also love that theme song, Joshua. That is brilliant. It almost like
Very
I'm not
cinematic.
gonna say it's like it really is. I'm not gonna say it's like X-Men animated series, like great, but it is that vibe, like that. It has that tone to it. I love it. But yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Well,
I like this. Yeah.
it's perfect. I love it. Well, viewers, listeners, I am one of your geeks, Kevin Schaeffer, here with Joshua Noel. Joshua, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Love just
Oh,
talking about some comics and making time for the reading I like to do.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we will get right into it. And before we do, just want to thank all of our Patreons out there. I want to give it a shout out today to, let me pull up a name here, Amber Riley. We have many
Yeah.
Patreons on here, but if you want to shout out on here, super easy to support our Patreon. Literally just $3 a month. And you can also subscribe to all of our platforms. I also want to share, we've been saying for like over a year now that if we get 50 likes on a YouTube episode, that Will Rose will film himself frolicking through the field of flowers. We updated that on What's News last night too. He will give a sneak peek into his geek cave, his Fortress of Solitude, and possibly show himself like frolicking through all of his comic boxes. So if you want to see that, please hit that like button.
And I'm told the secret recipe for the Krabby Patties in there.
So
probably.
if you want that, come on. It's super easy to hit like on here if you're watching. So, but we appreciate your support. So thanks so much. And Joshua, before we get into our main books today, I just want to go to a lightning round here to highlight a few others. So Joshua, what are some quick picks for you? Some other comics you've been reading.
Yeah. I haven't. I didn't write down my my lightning round picks like the authors and stuff. But they just started the Sonic X Justice League. Fantastic! It's so much fun. Sonic is in fact quicker than the Flash. I was stoked about that because I do feel like this comic is more for like Sonic fans to try and get Sonic the Hedgehog fans into comics. I think that's kind of the point, is for DC to try and pull some gamers, and I'm just having fun with it. I'm not a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. I'm not a huge DC Comics fan, but I'm like, I like both of them together. It's a blast, man. It's a whole blast. Especially since they include Silver the Hedgehog, one of my favorites, who gets left out. The unsung hero of the Sonic franchise. Do you want to just go back and forth, or just list all of them at once?
Go ahead and list yours. I've only got a couple, so yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
The other two, I think this is the last one of the Marvel vs. Godzilla series they did. They just released Avengers vs. Godzilla yesterday. I haven't finished reading it, or else it probably would have been one of my picks. I'm like halfway through, and just beautiful. It's just so much fun, especially since like what Marvel did with the vs. Godzilla series is like they're all kind of one-offs, but they're also kind of connected, like what they do with a lot of the What If stuff. And also, it's a lot more like your old school classic Marvel characters rather than... I like the new stuff, but it's easier for me to connect with the older ones because I'm so familiar with the story. So seeing that Godzilla placed in that timeline with Marvel, it was great. And then the last one, technically not a comic book, but since it's the only manga I've ever read, I'll never get invited to Manga Mustard, I don't think. So I'm just going to mention it here. I've been picking up the Kingdom Hearts manga. So what happened was, I've been fighting it for a long time because I'm like, there's only so far. Like, you know, like everybody has a line where you're like, I'm not going to go that far. Like, that's too far. And my line was like, I'm never going to read the Kingdom Hearts manga. And then I keep seeing they get really good ratings. And I keep like, man, I just love this story so much. It's like I'm just jonesing for more Kingdom Hearts, even though it's the same thing. And then they released 2 issues of some of the newer parts on Kindle. And I was like, oh, all I have to do is click download for $3. And man, then I picked it up and I was like, dang it. This is phenomenal. Now my Christmas list is just going to be all of the Kingdom Hearts manga. And I'm just going to have a book set sitting there behind my Captain America shield for everybody. And I'm just going to have to own it. That's just where I'm at.
And you know, I understand that totally because like I totally respect manga as a medium, but when I go to Barnes & Noble and I just see the manga shelves there, it's intimidating just how, I mean,
Yeah.
there are, because comics, yes, obviously there are characters that have existed for decades and they have thousands of issues, but also like you can pick up a trade paperback or a graphic novel and like you don't have to do a full deep dive to understand one story at a time. But manga, their entire row is full of just one book there.
Yeah, I do think this might end up being a gateway drug for me because the way it's drawn, the line work looks like a comic book. The coloring and some of the style, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's still definitely a manga. The line work makes you think comic book. Going through it, also, I realize, so typically manga's shorter books, so they look thicker. But I went through a chapter, which is usually a whole book, and I'm like, that was super quick. And then I realized, oh yeah, the only reason our comic books aren't super thick is because they're like big pages. And I'm like, okay, this might be my gateway drug. If I end up reading all of One Piece, someone pray for me, maybe come to a Exorcist and get the manga demon out of me. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see what happens, but soon enough you'll be on Manga Mustard.
Yeah.
And
probably.
Yeah.
Talk about devil fruits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your lightning round picks?
Yeah, absolutely. So just today, I read Mr. Terrific Year 1, Number 1, written by Al Letson and illustrated by Valentin De Landro and Edwin Gallman. So if you're unfamiliar with Mr. Terrific, now is a great time to get into the character because he will be making his big screen debut in the Superman movie, which, if you're tired of hearing me talk about that movie, oh well, I'm going to continue. But he is one of the greatest characters in DC. It's one where his mind is really his power. He's known as like the smartest person in the DC universe. And Year 1 covers his origin. I'm loving it so far. It was a great debut issue. Very well written, great art. And yeah, I think he's just one of the coolest characters out there.
Yeah, dude, I was just pulling this up. Like, I'm gonna share this. This art, this is crazy.
Yes.
So I've been wanting to get to know Mr. Terrific because that's one of the characters in the new Superman I don't know. That's why I was like, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just like, oh,
no,
dang, Kevin's right. This art's great.
It is.
Yeah.
No, and it is a great jumping on point if you don't have much familiarity with the character. Like, because for me, even there's like a lot of details about his story I don't know as well because I've mainly seen him in other books and in media growing up. So he was in Justice League Unlimited, and then in the Arrowverse, played by Echo Kellum, who's great in Arrow. So I knew the character. I'm familiar with them, and then he's one of the best stories is in Strange Adventures. Written by Tom King. That's a great story with them. But there's not really a lot of like solo books I read from. So this is a really good jumping on point if you want to familiarize yourself with the character before the movie. Highly recommend it. So, and the art is stellar. But yeah. So that is one of my picks. Other than that, still reading Absolute Flash, Absolute Batman. I'm enjoying that universe a lot, and those are my two highlight books there. I'll probably pick up the trade for Absolute Superman and some of the others, but the Flash and Batman ones are the ones I'm reading issue by issue. I just really love those. Yeah, and then I also, it's not comic related, but one I want to give something I want to give a shout out to is, so today we're recording on Juneteenth, and one of our co-hosts, Justin Coleman, wrote a great essay reflecting.
Oh yeah.
Juneteenth.
Yeah, I shared that a couple places. I hope it's on our social media. Is it on our social media?
I think I saw it on the story earlier, so you can find it there. Yeah. I know several of the hosts shared it, so we'll put a link.
Yeah, I'll message.
If it's not on there. Yeah,
I'll message Evan too, and I'll put it in the comments for this video because I want to make sure everybody gets it. It was so well done, and man, Justin's from Texas, and also just he's an incredible speaker and writer, and just all around communicator and great guy. We love Justin. Yeah,
Justin's the man.
Everybody should love Justin.
Everyone should love Justin. Absolutely. So yeah, so those are my picks. Yeah, and then I'm ready to get into my main books here.
All right, sounds good, man. I guess let's. Would you be okay just doing it in the order that I made the slides?
Sure, absolutely. Let's do it.
I don't remember what order I made the slides in.
That's fine. Well, it makes it more suspenseful for both of us. I like it.
It's great. It's great. Okay, so we're starting with one of my picks, it turns out. I know I alternated, so this should work. Ghostbusters, Dead Man's Chest.
Nice.
So the embarrassing part of this, I knew nothing about there being a Ghostbusters comic book line. There's an entire line that Dark Horse is doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real talk, I'm going to be explicit just because, like, this is just how I talk, and in the next 2 minutes, I'll go back to normal. But man, I was at Will's church. We had this big event. Trip Fuller's going to be there. I knew that I was gonna have to wait a little while because I actually visited Justin first in that day. I got to see him earlier, and I knew that they were doing stuff and they'd be at the church later. So I was waiting at Will's church. I had to use the bathroom. Here I am sitting on the shitter, right? And all of a sudden, my phone beeps with Ghostbusters, Dead Man's Chest, and I was like, pirate ghost Ghostbusters comic. Absolutely no context going into this thing. So this is issue 1, I think, of 2 that they're doing for this. I think it's an overarching series, though, and it's a family, so it's not any of the Ghostbusters I'm used to. I really enjoyed it. It kind of, to me, gives more like modern Danny Phantom than it did modern Ghostbusters. For those who grew up watching Danny Phantom, you know, and if you don't know, go watch Danny Phantom. It's incredible. Also, we need to do a Danny Phantom episode or something.
Yeah, we do. Actually, Tank and I were talking about that. We need to make it happen.
Us 3, we'll do it. Actually, we'd probably drag our good friend Nick in, too. Have a whole reunion, man. Anyway, so this comic, it was very much like that. You have some high school drama. You have some like family, like, oh wait, our kids are growing apart from us kind of stuff. And the big reveal at the end is the new friend she made has this cool sword that summoned the ghost of Captain Kidd. It was fun. It was very child friendly, really comic-y, kind of campy. A lot like the original Ghostbusters movie, I guess. But yeah, Danny Phantom, the comic, is how I'm feeling about it. The only complaint I have is that the end, the bad ghost is Captain Kidd. They can salvage this. I just always get irritated because, for those who know, I'm super passionate about pirate lore. Captain Kidd was never really a pirate. Like, he was a privateer hired from the country. Then once his order stopped, he was like, okay, well, I guess we'll go straight. And his crew was like, fuck no. And they captured him. The ship was caught doing pirate work, and then he gets hung in the I can't think of the word, the gallows, so that anyone going into London sees his body as an example, when he was never even really a pirate. One IP that does this really well, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. I don't love the game very much, like the play. For some reason, the gameplay didn't click for me. Most people love it. But story-wise, all of the pirates are characterized so well. So there's 2 different Captain Kidd. The male Captain Kidd is the one I'm talking about. There's also a female Captain Kidd that's in the game who was actually a pirate. So yeah, that was my only complaint, and it's just me complaining about pirate stuff. But hey, if a comic book can get me excited about pirates, even in a negative way, I'm here for it.
It's just funny, too, because the title, it's like Dead Man's Chest was the title of the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So, you know, I would think, like, is this going to involve Davy Jones? Because Davy Jones and Ghostbusters sounds pretty awesome. But,
that's what I was hoping for. David Jones or Henry Morgan. That's my all-time favorite, and he's technically not a pirate either, but he's so cool. I need to do a Davy... Captain Morgan episode one day. One day I'll get to do it.
I like it. But no, I really need to read some Ghostbusters comics. So a friend from Ultimate Comics is a massive Ghostbusters fan, and so I knew about the comics through him, but I just never dived into it. But what I know about though is because the origin of the Ghostbusters movie started as much more of a futuristic sci-fi supernatural movie, and it evolved into the comedy we all know and love. But I think the comics delve more into kind of Dan Aykroyd's original vision, if I'm not mistaken. And I know there are, hundreds of them. So I do really want to get into it. And this one sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And having that family drama aspect to it, as opposed to, again, I love the original, but the 4 grown men makes for great comedy. But if you're going to get a fully developed story across multiple issues, I think you need this kind of family dynamic in it. It works really well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good
well,
pick.
You want to move to your first pick here? Turns out it's Superman Unlimited.
Oh, shocker. I'm talking about a Superman book again. Again, if you're tired of me talking about Superman, oh well. I do not apologize. But yeah, so it is DC's Summer of Superman, obviously, with the James Gunn movie coming up. They're very much, putting out multiple new Superman titles. This one is called Superman Unlimited, written by Dan Slott, illustrated by Raphael Albuquerque. Dan Slott alone, I know Christian Ashley might be a little perturbed here. I know he has major beefs with Dan Slott, and this is Dan Slott's first big DC ongoing. So it's really interesting for him to tackle this character specifically, because, he did years on Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer. But with this issue, so what's happening is, first of all, the Daily Planet has been bought out by Morgan Edge's fiance, and so it's moving into that more corporate media, doing away with classic journalism. So Lois Lane is trying to fight that. Superman is doing his thing, and the big event that happens in this first issue is a kryptonite meteor is hurling toward Earth, and Superman has to stop it. And so, he's faced with this dilemma of like, oh, this is where it ends. This is where I'm going to die. And so midway through the issue, a lot of it plays out with this big montage sequence that delves into Superman's greatest hits, and he's seeing his life flash before his eyes, which, I mean, I didn't mind that personally. I know it's a little cliche to do that, and obviously he's not going to die because this is the first issue of an ongoing. And you
would be funny though.
It would be pretty interesting. I mean, like, it's like, oh, and actually, now John Kent's going to take over or something. But actually what ends up happening is he gets enhanced. As you can see from this final page here, he gets this sort of enhanced power. And we're still not, I mean, even with that image, we're not sure exactly what this means. Is this mean he's now immune to kryptonite? Is that, is it like, what's going on here? Because at the end of the issue, so, he stops the meteor, but then goes into a coma for like a few months, is woken up by the Justice League, and now the bits of the meteor have spread all over Earth, and as you can see here, he's radiating and glowing, and so his powers are massively affected by this incident. So it is a really compelling first issue. I'm really curious to see where this goes from here, especially as an ongoing, because like when I started this, I was like, is this going to be kind of like a one-off miniseries? But it is an ongoing, it is canon. Like I've said on previous episodes, I've mainly been following the Absolute Universe, so I really don't know what's going on in the main DC continuity, just because it's too hard to keep up with main DC and main Marvel. As much as I love these characters, I that's what I like about the Absolute Universe, is I can kind of delve into this, separate continuity. But this one, I don't think you need to know a ton about what's going on to follow the story. It gives you the information you need. But I thought it's a great first issue. It sets up the series really well. And Raphael Albuquerque is one of my favorite artists. I don't know if you ever read American Vampire, and then some of his Batman stuff.
But this art is so good.
All
of yours just have great art. I'm like, man, maybe Kevin picks his by what looks pretty. He's like, hey, this one looks great.
I mean, it is a pretty cover there. Yeah. It's really hard to, I mean, one like this I was going to pick up regardless, but this was one where when you had Albuquerque's name on it, I was like, ooh, I really want to see what his take on Superman is.
I mean, I get that. Scotty Young, if it's writer or illustrator, I'm getting it, period. Does not matter.
Absolutely.
Hell, I think if you put him as the letterer, I'd get it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, he's phenomenal. But yeah, and I would say even with a book like this, with, I know Dead Slot has made a lot of controversial decisions in Marvel over the years, and that's has prompted the beefs with Christian Ashley and many other readers. But I think even those who aren't as big fans of him, like, what he did with Spider-Man or some of the other Marvel characters, I would say give at least this issue a shot. I think it's a really interesting start. And again, even with that image there at the end of the issue, I still don't know. It doesn't fully explain. Okay, does this mean he's immune to kryptonite? Does this mean is where he gets his powers from have radically changed? I don't know exactly. It's a really interesting setup, and that's why I'm curious to see where it'll go from here. So I think it's a really strong start.
Yeah. I like how in this art it somehow both looks very human and alien. I'm like, that they do a really good job with that. I haven't been following is it Ultimate? Is that the other series?
Ultimate is the Marvel one, yes.
Okay, what's the DC one that you just mentioned?
DC's is called Absolute. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I haven't been following that. I've been following the Justice League one, and it's been really good. So I'm curious if this is going to impact that story at all.
But I guess we'll see. Might, just
because I mean, it's Superman. Yeah.
Right, it's canon, and like I said, the Justice League shows up at the end there, so, and this very much has a worldwide effect, so I think with the arrival of the kryptonite meteor and the way it separates and, pieces of it fall all over the Earth, I think it'll definitely have an impact on the wider DC universe. Yeah.
So what I'm curious to see, both in the movies and in the comics, and one thing I'm actually excited about with Marvel's Ironheart coming out here in a couple days. In our current times, people are the current generation is more prone to be okay with stuff like mysticism, magic, this kind of like pagan ideas even. They're just more accepting of spirituality. And it's really fun to watch the church because they're like, we're going to tell you why this, prove scientifically that this could be true. And they're like, no, we have no problem with the God being true. We just don't like your God. And it's like watching the church have to find whole new arguments because like the problem isn't they don't think a God can exist anymore. And it seems like our media is getting ahead of this because we see Ironheart's going to be doing magic, which is what Iron Man should have been fighting the whole long. We should have had the Mandarin and Iron Man, but it's okay. It's fine. I still get a Iron hero that's all science versus a magic character. So that's what we want. A lot of your Justice League, you are seeing some of that incorporated where like, hey, remember, Kryptonites are weak to magic. So I'm curious if they're going to lean more into Kryptonite being his weakness or magic or a little bit of both. Because I think in a time where people are more accepting of mystics, it would be kind of fun to see more of that thrown into the DC universe, both in comics and in the movies.
I totally agree. Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot of that in the DC cinematic universe, like the fusion.
I hope so.
Of magic and
DC
science.
does magic so well.
They really do, and like don't hide from it. And I think James Gunn is really embracing that.
Yeah, like Marvel's got Doctor Strange and stuff, and it's fun, but it's a lot more like laser blast. DC magic actually feels magic.
Magic and like very like dense, rich mythology.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for this one before we jump to my number 2?
Nope, definitely recommend, and I will be continuing the series.
Sweet. Let's see what my number 2 is. Okay, I'm going with the giant size X-Men. Guys, I don't like X-Men. Let me start with this. I don't read X-Men comics because I never tend to get into it, and I can never tell you why exactly. I like teams. I like Professor X. I like Colossus. I like Wolverine. Kamala Khan is my all-time favorite Marvel character, and as soon as she started being part of the X-Men, I noticed that I stopped being as interested in her comics, and I'm like, man, this sucks. Will texted me maybe a week or two ago. He was like, hey, I think you should read Giant Size X-Men. This will be the one that gets you into it. And like, Will, don't watch this. I rolled my eyes hard reading that text. Like, Will... And to be honest, I partially read this just so I could have the bad opinion of like, here's why I didn't like it. And then I read it and I was like, well, hot damn. This was incredible. This actually makes me care about the X-Men. Because it's very much focused on Kamala. Ever since we had to like relearn how to say the vice president's name last year, it's really been throwing me off because it's 2 different pronunciations. Yeah. But Miss Marvel's here. She's talking like, I don't know if I want to be a mutant. I don't know who I am anymore. I kind of wish I could just be a normal person. She's talking to Bruno, which, that's like getting me all of my feels from the original Miss Marvel comics that I have hidden away that I'm like, oh, this is my favorite bits. It's like, don't show me the other heroes. Just let me focus on her for a minute. And it basically does. It gets thrown into the past. Cyclops recognizes her because he's gone to the future before he met her. And none of the other characters have any idea who she is. Xavier can tell that she's from the future and is like, we need to not let a paradox happen. And here we are reliving a classic X-Men story that I heard about, but I never read. And I'm like, seeing this event through the eyes of Kamala, I'm like, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. She's so excited that it makes me excited. Somehow they portrayed her character so well that even her little giddy nerdiness is like contagious. And I'm like, ooh. And then like it ends with this cliffhanger of the Phoenix, which I've never cared about. And then she's like, I know where I am. And I'm like, well, now I care. Now that you're telling me the story through a character that I connect with deeply's eyes, I'm like, I guess I'm reading all of these giant size comics because like I have to. I just have to. Man, Will, thank you. And I'm sorry I rolled my eyes at you.
I love it. No, I know Andy and Will are the resident X-Men experts on this podcast. But I've certainly read a fair amount of stories, and I do love the characters. But I to your point, I think like I possibly what's the reason where it's a little harder to get into X-Men comics specifically is like there's a lot of like soap opera elements. There's a lot of like characters in and out, and it's like it can be hard in many ways to find a jumping on point. And there's often feels like the X-Men are kind of in their own corner of the Marvel universe. And that's why for the longest time, I actually kind of liked that, Fox owned X-Men separately and were able to tell those stories separately from the rest of the MCU. Don't get me wrong, I am very excited for the X-Men to be integrated into the MCU finally.
Oh yeah, me too.
But yes, but it's like the issues they deal with are very much, revolving anti-mutant prejudice and, it is very much revolved around them specifically. And yeah, there are so many characters. It's a lot to keep up with, and they're always changing their characters that die and come back. And yeah, it's a lot of continuity to keep up with. So I get that. Yeah.
Well, also what it is like, I guess for me, I like to connect with the character. And there's a lot of likable characters in X-Men that I like when they're in other comics. Like, I love when Professor X shows up in a different comic. I'm like, oh, this is exciting. Or Wolverine and Spider-Man, some of the best stuff out there, right?
Yeah.
Black Panther and Storm, great.
Yeah.
But it's like when I'm just reading X-Men, like, none of these characters are people that I'm like, I see myself in. Like, I don't have Wolverine's rage. I don't have, some kind of weird background. Like, I can't even, I know a lot of people with, I'm struggling with his name. It's not Devil Guy.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Nightcrawler. Yeah. Even Nightcrawler. I know a lot of people connect with him because he's like the outcast and he looks weird, but he's really religious. And I'm like, I feel like that should be who I connect with. And I'm like, I just don't. But now we hear the story with Kamala. No, Kamala. Okay, Kamala. I got to remember, because if it says comma, it's the president. If it's Kamala, that's the superhero. Okay.
Yep.
So... Kamala, man, seeing it through her eyes, she's the nerd and the person who grew up religious, but wasn't it doesn't necessarily have the best theology or constantly going every Sunday, but she's religious, dealing with her family, and she's a nerd. And I'm like, yeah, so I've always related with her. And then seeing this through her eyes and her excitement, it's probably like being able to read the same comic with Will, you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. I do want to shout out so that Will doesn't yell at me. The author, Colin Kelly, artist, Adam Kubert. I didn't mention the ones for the Ghostbusters. For whoever does want to know, writer for Ghostbuster was David M. Boer. I might be saying that wrong. Viv Orr is the artist. I might be saying that wrong. Colorist is Chris Peter. Feel pretty confident on that one. And the letter was Jimmy Betancourt. Again, I'm not sure about the pronunciations, but
nice.
Yeah. This X-Men, so good. I'm excited to read Giant Size Phoenix, and I feel weird about it because I've never read X-Men like that.
I know Andy and Will are just celebrating here, but
yeah. Will got a big win here.
I love it. You're getting into manga and X-Men. It's a big
Whoever thought, man. All right, yeah. You want to go ahead and do the next one?
Let's do it.
All right, you're number 2. We got Wolverine.
Perfect segue. So, and this is also illustrated by Adam Kubert. So, this is the Wolverine book from 2020, written by Benjamin Percy, illustrated by Adam Kubert and Victor Bogdanovic. So this is set during the Krakoa era. So unlike the book Joshua had picked, this is not. This is a few years ago. And the Krakoa era, I know Andy could give more in-depth historical explanation to this, but basically Krakoa is this mutant haven where all of mutant kind lives together in harmony. So both the heroes and villains, so the X-Men, Magneto, and all the rest of the Brotherhood, they're all there together, and they're trying to create this new world, this new safe haven for mutants. And the Krakoa era is really fascinating. This was headed up by Jonathan Hickman, and it lasted several years. I mean, I think probably 500 issues in total if you add up all the books together. And so the Wolverine title, when you put Wolverine in an environment like this, the question is, can a guy like Wolverine ever be happy when he is in this utopia environment? And so that's the kind of question it poses. And of course it doesn't last long. He's still going to go on missions and he's still going to do stuff, but they're coinciding with the mutant nation here, there's a vampire nation that also builds up nearby, and so he gets entangled in fighting this vampire, right? Because why not? So he's getting involved in fighting this vampire cult. He actually meets Dracula in this book, which I love. And then there's also it's awesome. Yeah, I mean that alone should convince you to sell. It should be a selling point for this book. Wolverine and Dracula. But yeah, there's that element. There's also this ex-government agent with kind of a tragic backstory on a vendetta here. So there's all these different issues. It's not really one main plot thread. This volume collects the first 5 issues of Percy's run, and Benjamin Percy I really like as a writer. He did a great Green Arrow run during the DC Rebirth era, and he also wrote a Wolverine podcast that I like. You can find it on Spotify.
Was it like it sounded like an audiobook? Is that how it was?
It was very much like an audiobook. Like
okay,
it was
then
like
I think I listened to that. I think yeah, those were great. Like he was in Canada and stuff.
Yes, that's what.
Yeah, that was so good. Sorry.
Oh no,
that was fantastic. Like, great writing.
It was so great. So he wrote that, and also, like, I think one of the reasons I found out about that one was because one of my favorite podcasters and comedians, Chris Gethard, who's a huge Marvel fan, he got to have a small voice role in that, so he was promoting it on his podcast. But yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. So,
nice.
This is a classic. If you love Wolverine, I think you'll love this book. I like it. It had been, on the shelves for a while. I just hadn't, picked it up, but There's a lot of great Wolverine titles out there. Jason Aaron had a long run. The original first Wolverine miniseries was by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller. That's one of my favorites.
Great duo.
So good. So good.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, I think you'll really love this one. It's, of course, great art, Kubert and Bogdanovic. Just 5 issues here, so there's still plenty of story in this run.
Sweet.
But yeah, so this one I highly recommend.
Yeah. So we got vampires. Any show of like Morbius or Blade or any of them, or is it just strictly like Dracula and?
They have not, but it's like Dracula's in this, Omega Red. Like, there's a lot of villains that pop up. I don't know if like Blade and Morbius pop up later, because I honestly don't know. Like, I don't. This is something I'll have to ask like some other Marvel experts, like where Blade.
Because I'm not an expert.
Right. I mean, because I love Blade, and you would think that they would be amping that. Well, I mean, that's if the MCU movie ever happens. But
gosh, I hope so.
But oh my gosh, especially after Coogler just did Sinners, I'm like, why don't they just give it to him? Like, let him do Blade, let him do X-Men, let him do whatever he wants. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Come on, Feige. I know you're watching this.
Oh yes. He definitely watches our podcast.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Man, yes. No, that's exciting. I have to try that. In October we're doing a part of our Finding the Good series for this year. We're doing Wolverines versus vampires. I'm like, werewolves versus vampires. I'm like, can I got the Wolverine in there? Does he count as a werewolf? Close.
It's close enough. I think it would be a fun one to throw in the mix.
Yeah. Him and Wolfman might get honorable mentions.
Ooh, I like it.
Man, yeah. So, I got this. Might be a weird question. Yeah. Is there any significance to? There is a butterfly on his hand right here.
Okay, yeah. So that deals with there's like this drug subplot going on that that's kind of like one of his missions that he goes on. So it stems from that. There's like because Krakoa is such this unique environment, and there's this like drug operation he's having to go stop. So that's what that's related to.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, I was asking actually because I just love butterflies. I used to have a pollinator garden. All this I'm huge on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're dying out, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
But actually, it also kind of ties into my last pick. If you're okay with me going to that,
let's do it.
Because Hunger in the Dusk finally picked back up. Book 2, we finally got issue 4. There's been some problems with the distributor as well as the writer not meeting writing times, I think, is kind of some of the disagreements. So now, if you want the single issues, I think you have to get it e-reader through Kindle for now. And they're going to end up releasing the whole thing as a graphic novel afterwards in volume sets instead. Same publisher, I think, still IDW, still going to do it. They're just doing it differently because G. Willow Wilson is famous enough that she can kind of write when she wants, to my own frustration, because I would like it to be every month. But she can kind of do what she wants. Just as a publishing company, they're like, yeah, we can't publish that way, though. So that I think that was just some of that. But man, this book drove me insane. I was laying in bed with my wife reading this. We read our Kindles in bed sometimes, and I literally am like, that's the most infuriating thing ever. And my wife turns and looks at me. He's like, what? And I'm like, that book. And she's like, oh, was it bad? And I'm like, no, this is my favorite author doing what she always does. She's like, oh, okay.
Darn it.
Yeah. So To simplify it, the main character, there's kind of a Romeo Juliet kind of thing going on. Two of the main characters. I'm bad with names. I want to say ogre girl and male guy because I just don't feel like remembering names. Human man, humans as we do messed up, guys as we do messed up. Girl's back in her tribe. He realizes he can't continue on with the mission, which is what the main plot's supposed to be about. Chasing down these Vingal, trying to figure out what's going on with these other races and what's going across the sea and what's happening to the turmoil of the world. He let his healer go because of personal romantic drama reasons, basically. So she's back in her tribe, and he realized our group does not function well without her. And not only that, I don't function well without her. So he went back for her. So in the middle of their journey, he just stops. We're not going forward anymore. He's going to go back and find her. And we see the butterflies, which, for those who are more literarily aware, typically in literature and in religion, actually, butterflies usually represent like rebirth, that kind of stuff. He goes back. He meets, one of her kinsfolk who's pissed off because you sent her back, which is going to put the whole treaty between humans and ogres at risk. And also, you hurt someone I'm related to, so I'm pissed off at you. And he's like, wait, I came because I love her and I know I messed up. I'm like, oh, okay. But then the Vingals show up. Human man, I wish I was better at names, is going to fight off these Vingal, which are way more powerful than humans and ogres, by himself so that the ogres can go back, regroup, bring the forces they need to fight this threat off. I'm simplifying. Anyway, because he does this, it looks like he might be dying. He got some terrible injuries in this fight. He's brought back to Girl, who's the healer, and his love interest, and it just leaves us unsure if she's going to be able to heal him or not. And man, it's infuriating because you're like, oh, what a good love story. And then you're like, is this going to end? Because I know G. Willow Wilson. There's a strong chance she does just end it there to make a point. There's also a chance that, he's not dead. I really could not tell you one way or another. Spoilers, there's the injury. It's the only thing I can spoil for you. I have no idea what's going to happen. What I do know, I wanted to pick up because, the author writes in here some really cool stuff that it's kind of like a quote, and I hate to do quotes, but I'm going to do it. So throughout this, the man, when he's marching up here, he sees these giant monuments to heroes of the past, and he's like, man, they made these because they'll be remembered forever, and the monuments are now decaying. He's like, we don't remember who they are anymore, and these monuments are decaying. And what's that say about any of our fights? Are any of our fights actually worth it? And he's kind of pondering this stuff about himself. And then at the end, it goes back. I don't know if it's him pondering or if this is just the author's writings, talking about this stuff like, of course they're not going to be remembered. And I'm going to read this quote that's kind of spread throughout, so it might be hard for me, but I'm going to try anyway. History is not written in monuments. It is written in moments. Moments that may not be commemorated in stone, but through which the world is made safe. But of course, these moments are not made without sacrifice. And no sacrifice is brought without grief. And it's just one of those like almost Jedi kind of moments that I'm like, I want to write that quote down, put it on my wall, and live my life by that. Like, I'm like, man.
It's a beautiful quote.
Yeah, and it is true. I love statues and monuments and remembering history. But I also realize, like, in the end, most people are forgotten. And what we really remember are the moments. And when I pass, people are going to remember the moments, and they remember more than they remember me. And I'm just like, this sucks. I'm not fighting a war, and it's different, but it's also kind of the same, right? Like, the moments that I share with people are what actually matters, and it's, am I living like that's the case? And I'm like, I just wanted to see a fantasy ogres and humans fight some giant monster thing, and then here she is with butterflies symboling rebirth, and now let me tell you the importance of sacrifice and living for moments instead of monuments. And I'm like, well, now I got to do some really deep self-reflection. Thanks for that.
That's pretty much my experience whenever I read Saga, which also has the parallel to this book in that after the 50th issue, Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples said that, okay, we're going to take a few months off. We'll be back in about like a few months to a year. And then they took 3 years off, and we were all having fun. But that book especially, it's like, oh, you think you're going to get this like, sci-fi fantasy epic about star-crossed lovers, but it's this deep exploration of parenthood, family relationships, sociopolitics.
Yeah.
It's just like it moves you and crushes you in so many ways.
Oh yeah, yeah. And this is like, it's socioeconomic, racial divide, all that kind of stuff, and then also great love story. There's just so much packed into this story. I do want to say though, I have one of the covers up here because it's so phenomenal. This cover, the variant art, is Cliff Chiang.
Oh, I love
one of the things I'm most irritated about not getting the single issues anymore is the single issues were coming in like matted, like they weren't like your usual comic book texture. They were like these matted pages, and they like mostly white. No, they're beautiful, beautiful issues. Having them do the variant was awesome. And then of course G. Willow Wilson. I already mentioned the authors, my favorite authors. The whole reason I started reading it and making my life great and miserable, because I know I'm going to have to wait forever to hear another story that's going to make me contemplate my life, and then wait forever to see what happens. It's just going to keep going. But the art is Chris Wildgoose. I also really want to shout out the letterers, Simon Bowland. Whenever he does like the ogres and the Vingal, like he does such a good job making it feel different when they speak, and everything about this comic to me phenomenal. But yeah,
it's a great pick.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I ranted a little too long. I know we're running on time. You want to go ahead and get your last one?
Yes, I can just talk about this one briefly. So, many listeners and watchers of the show know that I'm a big James Tynion IV fan. I love, both his creator-owned books and his DC titles. And so this is his latest horror title called Let This Be a Devil. It's written by him, Steve Fox, art by Pieter Kowalski. And then other creators include Brad Simpson and Tom Napolitano. I think I'm butchering that, but yeah, I apologize.
It was a brave attempt.
It was an attempt. It is, yeah. But yeah. So this is, this issue combines horror, historical fiction, urban legend, true crime. It is focused on the human protagonist, Henry, who's an outsider in his world, who has returned home to provide for his family in the wake of his father's death. And this story takes place in 1909, and it's juxtaposed with an 18th century tale chronicling the origin of the demon that comes to haunt Henry and his family in the town. And it is like, I don't really know anything about the urban legend that this is based on, but it is based on an actual one that originated, I think, in New Jersey. So it pulls from, history and historical fiction. And yeah, it's this is one I definitely can continue. I think it might read even better as a graphic novel, just because there's a lot of story to go here. And
how long is it?
I think it's an ongoing. I have to check if it's an. There are 4 issues out right now. I don't know if it's a miniseries or an ongoing, because Tynion writes a lot of books, and some are miniseries, some are. Then there's ones like Something Is Killing the Children, which he said he's just going to keep going until, I guess, he runs out of ideas or he gets bored. But he's done a lot of miniseries as well.
Yeah.
This one, I could see it going either way. I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about the folktale that it's based on to really know how much story there is there. But this is a great debut issue. The art's fantastic. It's good. Tynion always does great characterization. There's great horror here. So yeah, they're, like I said, I've talked about him multiple times before. One of my favorite comic creators today, and so I'm definitely gonna continue this one. I'll probably have more to say on it as I read further issues, because this issue is a nice debut, but it's just kind of the intro. You get the demon here, and you get a little bit of its origin, but there's still a lot more story to tell here, so I'm very excited for it to continue.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this one. I love a good horror comic, especially if it's not just, gore porn or jump scare kind of stuff. Because I'm especially jump scare in a comic's just weird to me. I'm like,
it doesn't work. Yeah.
I knew that was, unless specifically Mike Mignola does it, it doesn't work. If he does it'll work.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
But he's like the god of horror comics. I feel like it doesn't count. But yeah, man, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and this art very much has a Mignola influence to it.
Yeah, that's also like the art's intriguing to me, and then you recommending it plus being like a good horror, and Ice Cream Man's been on too long of a break. I need another good horror thing to pick up and to fill in the gap. Yeah. Oh, good stuff though, man. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, those are all of our main picks. Before we close out, Joshua, do you have any other recommendations? Either one of these or something else you want to recommend?
Man, of everything we talked about today, if I were to pick one from today, I'd probably... Honestly, I'd probably go with the giant size X-Men. Or Hunger of the Ducks. I mean, I'm always going to go with that, but I almost feel like if you're not me specifically, wait till it's finished so that you're not tormenting yourself.
Fair enough.
Giant X-Men, I feel like it's good to pick up issue by issue the way it's going because it's like, it's just fun, you know. It's not, you're not like, oh man, I'm so upset I don't know what happens next. You're excited for what happens next rather than, you know, like you get that like anxious feeling with G. Willow Wilson that I'm like, I'm just gonna be anxious until the next issue comes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go giant size X-Men if I had to pick one from today. Yeah.
Andy and Will, mark this on your calendar today. That
Yeah,
Joshua
yeah.
recommended an X-Men book.
Will, you did it, Will. You found one.
I love it. I love it. My recommendation, so I would recommend all the books from today, but I also want to highlight one real quick called DC's The Terrifics, which it's been a few years since I've read it, but this is another one that is a great tie-in to not just Superman, but also Fantastic Four, because it's kind of DC's answer to Fantastic Four. It teams up Mr. Terrific, Plastic Man, Metamorpho. So Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho are both in Superman, and Phantom Girl. And so it's very much like a cosmic kind of sci-fi epic where they go to different dimensions. It's a ton of fun, and again, that is a great tie-in to both Superman and Fantastic Four coming up. So if you want a comic that really scratches that itch for both, I highly recommend that one.
Yeah, that sounds great, man.
Yeah,
man, good stuff today. Good stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This was well, Joshua. Always a blast recording with you. And
you too, man. Always.
Oh man, this is great. So for our viewers out there, please again support us, like us here. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.